gotta go down! It's gotta be that way!
An FBI agent, a gang of surfing bank robbers, a movie that almost sounded too ridiculous to succeed. Yet Point Break defied every expectation and became one of the greatest action films of the 1990s. Behind its legendary stunts, unforgettable performances, and adrenaline-fueled action are incredible true stories that many fans have never heard. From dangerous on-set risks to surprising casting decisions, here are 13 incredible facts that reveal why Point Break remains an action classic more than 3 decades later. 13. Patrick Swayze risked his life for authentic skydiving. Patrick Swayze wasn't interested in pretending to be fearless. Long before filming began, he was already an experienced skydiver who loved pushing himself beyond his limits. So when Point Break called for breathtaking aerial sequences, he wanted the audience to see the real thing instead of relying entirely on stunt doubles. From their perspective, allowing one of the film's biggest stars to perform dangerous jumps was an enormous financial gamble. With a production budget of roughly $24 million, a serious injury could delay filming for months, or even shut the project down altogether. Despite the warnings, Swayze secretly continued making real skydives during production. During filming, his dedication came at a painful cost when he fractured 4 ribs. Later, Swayze admitted there were moments when he came dangerously close to losing his life while skydiving. The studio agreed to let him perform one officially approved jump for the movie, provided he stopped making unauthorized dives on his own. That agreement resulted in one of Point Break's most unforgettable moments, the thrilling Adios Amigo jump that fans still remember decades later. It was Patrick Swayze putting his own skills and his own safety on the line to give audiences something truly authentic. 12. Point Break almost had 3 completely different titles. Believe it or not, Point Break wasn't always called Point Break. In fact, the movie went through several different titles before filmmakers finally discovered the perfect one. The earliest title was simply Johnny Utah, named after Keanu Reeves' character. While it highlighted the story's main protagonist, studio executives quickly realized it didn't communicate what made the film special. Someone unfamiliar with the movie would have no idea it involved surfing, bank robbers, or high-octane action. Riders on the Storm, inspired by the famous song by The Doors, seemed like a better fit for the film's surfer atmosphere and rebellious spirit. But despite its cool sound, the title created another problem. The song had no real connection to the movie's story, and producers worried audiences would expect something entirely different. Even after production had already begun, the film still didn't have its final name. Eventually, the team discovered the surfing term point break. In surfing, a point break is a wave that forms when water crashes against a point of land, creating long, clean rides that surfers dream about. The phrase perfectly represented both the surfing culture at the heart of the film and the explosive action that drives the story. In this case, it became one of the most recognizable action movie titles ever created. 11. Patrick Swayze was almost Johnny Utah instead of Bodhi. It's difficult to picture anyone other than Patrick Swayze as the charismatic Bodhi. His calm confidence, philosophical outlook, and magnetic personality became the emotional center of Point Break. But surprisingly, that's not the role he originally pursued. When casting first began, Swayze actually auditioned to play Johnny Utah, the young FBI agent eventually portrayed by Keanu Reeves. Swayze found himself drawn to Bodhi instead. The character's love of freedom, spiritual outlook, and desire to live life without limits closely matched Swayze's own personality. Rather than playing the straight-laced lawman, he realized he connected much more deeply with the film's mysterious surfer leader. The casting team believed Swayze possessed the charisma and natural authority needed to make Bodhi unforgettable, while Reeves brought the innocence and determination Johnny Utah required. Their contrasting personalities created one of cinema's most memorable rivalries, one built on respect, friendship, and conflicting beliefs, rather than simple good versus evil. Interestingly, Swayze wasn't the only actor considered for Johnny Utah. Several future Hollywood stars, including Johnny Depp, Val Kilmer, Charlie Sheen, and Willem Dafoe, were connected to the role at different stages. But in the end, the pairing of Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves became movie magic that audiences still celebrate more than 3 decades later. 10. Kathryn Bigelow took the action to another level. Most directors stay behind a monitor while the stunt team handles the dangerous work. Kathryn Bigelow wasn't that kind of filmmaker. Determined to capture every skydiving sequence as realistically as possible, she refused to direct from the ground. Instead, she strapped on a parachute, climbed aboard the aircraft with the crew, and jumped alongside them. It wasn't simply about experiencing the thrill, it was about understanding exactly what the cameras, actors, and stunt performers were seeing in freefall. There was no modern CGI to create convincing skydiving scenes. Every shot had to be carefully planned and captured in real life, leaving little room for mistakes. Bigelow believed the audience would immediately recognize anything that looked fake, so authenticity became her top priority. For several surfing scenes, she positioned herself just outside the camera frame on a surfboard, directing actors while floating in the ocean. Rather than shouting instructions from the beach, she stayed close to the action, helping performers react naturally to the constantly changing waves. At the same time, another blockbuster was being filmed by someone very close to her, James Cameron, who was directing Terminator 2: Judgment Day. The two filmmakers frequently discussed their projects and pushed each other creatively during production. The film delivered action sequences that still feel exciting decades later because they relied on practical filmmaking instead of computer effects. Bigelow's willingness to share the same risks as her cast and crew became one of the reasons the movie has aged so well. And if you think those stories are unbelievable, wait until you hear which Hollywood legend secretly helped rewrite the movie and how Marvel unexpectedly brought Point Break back into the spotlight decades later. 9. The script came from a restaurant worker with a big dream. Before Point Break became a Hollywood hit, it existed only as an idea in the mind of an aspiring screenwriter. Peter Eliff wasn't an established writer living the Hollywood dream. He was working at a Greek restaurant in Santa Monica, trying to make ends meet while writing scripts during his spare time. After finishing long restaurant shifts, he would spend late nights developing the story that eventually became Point Break. A fellow waiter named Bodie McCoy left such a strong impression on Eliff that he borrowed part of the name for the film's unforgettable surfer leader. Combined with the writer's fascination with surfing culture and Los Angeles bank robberies, the concept slowly began taking shape. When the first draft was finished, Eliff reportedly received only about $6,000 for his screenplay, but the story caught the attention of producer Rick King, who recognized its potential and helped move the project forward. As production continued, the script evolved significantly. Kathryn Bigelow refined several scenes, while James Cameron also contributed ideas that strengthened the story's emotional and action-packed moments. One of the most unforgettable additions was the dramatic sequence in which Johnny Utah jumps from an airplane without a parachute to chase Bodie. Although the screenplay changed throughout development, Eliff remained the officially credited writer, and his original concept became the foundation for one of the most beloved action movies of the decade.
8. The movie's Australian ending was actually filmed in Hawaii.
One of the most memorable moments in Point Break takes place at Australia's famous Bells Beach. The emotional finale, set during the legendary 50-year storm, shows Bodie preparing to ride one final wave before disappearing into the ocean. The location feels authentic, and the film even identifies it as Bells Beach. The production never filmed the ending in Australia. Instead, nearly all of the surfing footage was captured on the north shore of Oahu, Hawaii, where the filmmakers found larger, more consistent waves and weather conditions that were easier to manage. Filming dangerous surfing scenes requires predictable ocean conditions and reliable safety planning. Hawaii offered experienced local crews, world-class surf locations, and conditions that made production far more practical than traveling to Australia. To maintain the illusion, editors combined real footage of Australia's coastline with close-up shots filmed in Hawaii. Through careful editing, audiences never noticed they were watching two completely different locations blended into one seamless sequence. Movie magic sometimes comes down to clever editing, smart camera angles, and choosing the right location. More than 30 years later, many viewers still believe the iconic ending was filmed entirely at Bells Beach. That's just how convincing the illusion turned out to be. 7. Keanu Reeves trained like a professional surfer. Before filming began, Keanu Reeves had one major obstacle to overcome. That might not sound like a huge problem, but for a movie built around surfing culture, it was essential that the lead actor looked believable in the water. Director Kathryn Bigelow wanted the cast to spend as much time as possible performing their own surfing scenes instead of relying entirely on stunt doubles. He traveled to Hawaii and spent nearly 2 months training with professional surf instructors. Day after day, he practiced paddling, balancing, reading waves, and improving his technique technique until surfing started to feel natural. To better understand Johnny Utah's career as an FBI agent, Reeves met with law enforcement officers and learned how they approached investigations. He also worked with football coaches to make his character's background as a former Ohio State quarterback more convincing. Everything about his preparation was designed to make Johnny Utah feel like a real person, rather than just another action hero. Although experienced surfers can easily spot when stunt doubles take over, Reeves's commitment helped make many of the surfing sequences feel far more authentic than audiences expected. Years later, the performance remains one of the defining roles of his career and helped establish him as one of Hollywood's most respected action stars. 6. The famous foot chase changed action filmmaking. Ask almost any Point Break fan to name the movie's best sequence, and many will immediately mention the unforgettable foot chase. The scene races through neighborhoods, backyards, fences, narrow alleys, and even private homes, with an intensity that still feels remarkably modern. Traditional camera equipment simply couldn't keep up with actors sprinting across obstacles at full speed. If the crew had used conventional methods, the footage would have looked shaky, slow, or disconnected from the action. Working with camera specialists, the production used a specially modified handheld camera system that combined lightweight equipment with stabilization technology. This allowed the camera operator to run directly behind the actors while maintaining surprisingly smooth footage. Instead, the rig was specially adapted so movement could be controlled while running at full speed through the complex chase route. Rather than watching the action from a distance, viewers felt as though they were running alongside Johnny Utah every step of the way. Today, countless action films use similar techniques. Whether it's modern spy thrillers or high-speed chase movies, many filmmakers still borrow ideas from the groundbreaking camera work introduced in Point Break. It proved that the best action scenes don't always need bigger explosions, just a smarter way to put audiences in the middle of the action. 5. James Cameron helped shape the movie behind the scenes. Although Kathryn Bigelow directed Point Break, another legendary filmmaker quietly influenced the final product. Serving as executive producer, Cameron became heavily involved in developing parts of the screenplay as production continued. He worked closely with Bigelow, offering suggestions that strengthened both the emotional story and several of the film's biggest action sequences. One of the moments most often associated with his contributions is Johnny Utah's daring decision to leap from an airplane without a parachute while chasing Bodhi. Years later, Cameron openly stated that he believed he deserved greater recognition for his writing contributions. However, under the Writers Guild of America's rules, the amount of material he added wasn't enough to earn an official screenplay credit. Even so, original screenwriter Peter Iliff has publicly acknowledged Cameron's creative input over the years. His ideas helped refine the script during production and contributed to several of the memorable moments audiences continue to discuss decades later. And in the case of Point Break, the collaboration between Kathryn Bigelow, Peter Iliff, and James Cameron helped transform an already exciting script into one of the defining action films of the early 1990s. 4. Kathryn Bigelow refused to make the film without Keanu Reeves. Casting Johnny Utah turned out to be one of the biggest battles behind the scenes. When pre-production began, the studio wanted a bigger box office name to lead the film. Several popular actors, including Johnny Depp, Val Kilmer, and Charlie Sheen, were either considered or discussed for the role. Executives believed that choosing an established star would make the movie easier to market. She believed Keanu Reeves had exactly what the character needed. While Reeves had already appeared in several films, he wasn't yet considered one of Hollywood's biggest action stars. Many people questioned whether he could carry a major studio production. She saw qualities that others overlooked. Reeves brought sincerity, vulnerability, and quiet determination. Traits that perfectly matched Johnny Utah's journey from ambitious FBI rookie to someone torn between duty and friendship. Instead of creating another loud, fearless action hero, Bigelow wanted audiences to connect with Utah on a personal level. She believed Reeves could make viewers understand why the character slowly admired Bodhi instead of simply seeing him as another criminal. After months of discussions, she finally convinced the studio. Looking back, it's difficult to imagine anyone else playing Johnny Utah. Reeves's chemistry with Patrick Swayze became one of the film's greatest strengths, creating a relationship built on respect, conflict, and mutual admiration rather than the typical hero versus villain formula. 3. Point Break had to compete with one of the biggest movies ever made. Summer 1991 was one of the most competitive seasons in movie history. Just 1 week before Point Break arrived in theaters, James Cameron released Terminator 2: Judgment Day, a blockbuster that quickly became one of the biggest films of the decade. Despite earning strong reviews from audiences and introducing thrilling action sequences that felt unlike anything else at the time, the film debuted in second place at the box office. Terminator 2 continued dominating theaters during its second weekend, making it nearly impossible for any other release to claim the top spot. Produced on a budget of approximately $24 million, the film eventually earned more than $80 million worldwide. While those numbers were impressive, its greatest success came after its theatrical release. Home video, television broadcasts, and repeated viewings transformed Point Break into a true cult classic. Each new generation discovered the movie, introducing fresh audiences to Johnny Utah, Bodhi, and some of the most memorable practical action scenes ever filmed. James Cameron directed Terminator 2 while also serving as executive producer on Point Break, meaning his influence could be found in both of the season's biggest action hits. 2. Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze worked together before Point Break. Many fans assume Point Break was the first time Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze shared the screen. 5 years earlier, both actors appeared in the 1986 hockey drama Youngblood. At the time, neither had reached the level of fame they would later enjoy. Patrick Swayze played veteran player Derek Sutton, while a young Keanu Reeves appeared as an energetic rookie goalie in one of his earliest film roles. Although they didn't share many scenes, the project gave them an opportunity to meet years before Point Break reunited them as two of cinema's most unforgettable rivals. In Youngblood, Reeves was still building experience as a young actor, while Swayze had already established himself as a charismatic performer. By the time Point Break entered production, both had grown tremendously, bringing confidence, maturity, and natural chemistry to every scene they shared. Rather than relying only on explosions and chase scenes, Point Break succeeded because audiences genuinely believed in the complicated relationship between Johnny Utah and Bodhi. That emotional connection remains one of the biggest reasons the movie continues to resonate with viewers decades later. 1. Marvel secretly turned Point Break into a pop culture legend again. More than 30 years after its release, the movie unexpectedly found a whole new audience thanks to Marvel. In The Avengers, Tony Stark gives Thor the nickname Point Break. At first, it sounds like one of Stark's usual sarcastic jokes. He's teasing Thor's long blonde hair, comparing him to Patrick Swayze's character, Bodhi. Years later, in Thor: Ragnarok, the joke returned in an unexpected way. While trying to access the Quinjet, Thor attempts several voice commands using his own titles, including God of Thunder and Son of Odin. None of them work. Then he suddenly remembers Tony Stark's old nickname, Point Break. Immediately, the system recognizes the password and grants him access. It became one of the funniest callbacks in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, while also introducing Point Break to an entirely new generation of movie fans. Long after leaving theaters, Point Break continues finding new audiences, proving that great action movies never really fade away. They simply inspire the next generation. More than 3 decades after its release, Point Break remains one of the most unforgettable action films ever made. Its thrilling stunts, unforgettable performances, and commitment to practical filmmaking continue to inspire audiences today. Which fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more behind-the-scenes movie facts and hidden Hollywood stories. Some action movies entertain audiences for a few years. Point Break has inspired generations for more than 3 decades, and it doesn't look like that's changing anytime soon. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next countdown.